Hi everyone, my name's Katie Robertson and I'm the founder and director for the Anchor Gathering, and I want to officially welcome you to our Anchor at Home. We are so glad you're joining us tonight. If you're in a watch party or you're tuning in on your own, we are thrilled you're here with us. We've got a great evening planned, and before we get started, I'd like to share just a few things. First of all, we've got some exciting news to share about our speakers for next month's Anchor at Home broadcast. We will be featuring Gary Chapman, author of The 5 Love Languages, and best-selling authors Les and Leslie Parrott, and they are going to share brand new material on going deeper with your love language and with relationships. You are not going to want to miss. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and also subscribe to our website. You'll receive weekly encouragement and all the information on upcoming events and everything for the Anchor. Just go to the website, theanchorgathering.com, and sign in there. Also, we'd love if you'd follow us, like us, share us on our social media platforms, and most important, consider starting a watch party in your community. Check us out on our website to find out more information. Well, we thought it would be fun to take a look at a recent little video we made on our testimonials. We're going to take you to hear what people are saying about the Anchor. So let's take a look now.
I love gathering with friends and family and listening to the amazing message.
Talk about faith and friendship and talk about the Lord and see what's been happening in people's lives.
Delve a little deeper into the matters of the faith. I think the whole package works really well for all of us.
Fun way to meet other women, because so often we find ourselves kind of lonely, without close friends.
To the Anchor, it's Luke here. Keep up the great work. From us to you, we're cheering you on, and thanks for all the support as well. We love these ladies. All the best.
Well, greetings to everyone at the Anchor. Stephen Curtis Chapman here. How you doing? I love the name, the Anchor. I love encouraging each other to stay anchored in truth.
Hey Katie and everybody at the Anchor, it's Brandon. So glad that you're all still getting together and getting deeper into the Word of God.
Thank you for joining us this evening. We hope and pray that you have a wonderful month. And like I like to say, until next time, stay anchored, and we will see you soon. So fun to hear what people are saying, and we would love to hear from you. If you want to take a short little video or leave us a comment, you can send it to our website, theanchorgathering.com. We like to start each Anchor at Home with music, and tonight it is an honor to introduce our musician, and his name is Scott Krippayne, and Scott is an Emmy Award-winning singer-songwriter. He has the gift of writing lyrics that are filled with hope and resonate with the heart. He and his wife live in the Pacific Northwest and have 2 grown children. Let's hear now from Scott Krippayne.
Hello, Anchor. This is Scott Krippayne. You're about to listen to a song of mine called You Have Been Good, which is a reminder to me of the many things that we have to be thankful for. I hope it blesses you.
If I never get to see another rainbow, or share another laugh with a friend, if I never stand barefoot by the ocean, get to kiss my kiss goodnight again. If I never have another prayer that's answered, I have another blessing come my way. This is all I know of heaven's kindness. Father, I would still have to say, you have been good. You have been good. And I am in wonder, how could it be? You have been good. You've been so good. In so many ways, you've been good to me. You've shown me mercy upon mercy, grace upon grace, time after time after time. And I know all too well what I'm deserving. You're still so patient and kind. You have been good. You have been good. And I am in wonder, how could it be? You have been good. You've been so good. So many ways you've been good to me. Suddenly it all will end, and your blessings disappear. Looking back over a lifetime, the evidence is clear. You have been good. You have been good. And I am in wonder, how could it be? You have been good. You've been so good. In so many ways you've been good to me. You have been good. You have been good. And I am in wonder, how could it be? You have been good. You've been so good. So many ways you've been good to me. So many ways you've been good to me.
Thank you, Scott, for sharing your incredible gift of music. Those lyrics are just the best promise of God's grace and goodness. Well, at this time, we have our anchor moment, and that's a time we get to hear from a guest a little bit about their life, their faith journey, and an anchor moment they've had. And that's a time their faith has been grounded, they've seen Jesus to be real, and lately, I've been saying it's an encounter. They've seen the Lord at work in their lives. So tonight, we're going to have I have a special interview with our guest. Her name's Rachel Linden, and we're going to take you now to the anchor moment. We'd like to just get started. Well, first of all, I think I want to say a little something. Rachel here has just recently released her book, and it is called Recipe for a Charmed Life, and very hot off the press, so it's very fun. We get to have her here with us to hear more of her story and how Jesus has been her anchor. So Let's start now. Rachel, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, thank you, Katie. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Rachel Linden. I live here near Katie in beautiful Gig Harbor, Washington. I've been married for 15 years to my lovely, darling husband, Johanna, and I have 2 children who are in elementary school. And I'm an author, so this is book number 5. I write books about strong women facing big challenges, about food, about travel, about second chances at love, all with a hopeful and happy ending, and with themes that point people toward the Lord.
With that, then, how about a little bit about your faith journey?
So I was raised in a Christian home. My dad was a pastor, and I accepted Jesus at the age of 2 at Vacation Bible School. Actually, I remember they did a skit, and there was a little dancing tooth and an apple, and they asked Jesus, people if they wanted to accept Jesus, and I said yes. And so from the time I was 2 on, I really had a thriving faith. It was a real and genuine faith, but I also had some misconceptions about the Lord. And as I went on, those misconceptions were challenged by the Lord in really interesting ways, and I want to talk about one of those today.
All right. Well, that gets us to our big question that we all always look forward to hearing, and that is if you'd share with us one of your anchor moments that you've had in your life.
So this happened about 10 years ago. My husband and I were serving overseas in Europe with a mission organization, and we had just moved to Budapest in Hungary. We had been married about 6 years, and we got pregnant, and we were so excited. We had been wanting to start a family, and so I went to the doctor, had the whole checkup, had the ultrasound, and the doctor said, "Oh, everything is perfect. The heartbeat is great. Everything's going well." My husband went on a trip to Czech Republic, and things started to not go well. So I went into the doctor to see what was going on, and I remember the look on his face, and he said, "I'm so sorry, the baby is dead." And I was alone, and he said, "You need to have a medical procedure. Go pack your bag and meet me at the hospital. We're going to do surgery tonight, and you'll stay at the hospital." So I called my husband in tears as I was putting things in my suitcase, but he was in another country, and so he was on a train trying to get to me, and so I packed my suitcase, and it was such a lonely, such a sad feeling to pack my suitcase and go. I'd never been in the hospital. I'd never had a surgery before, and here I was alone in a foreign country being taken. I didn't speak the language. I didn't speak Hungarian. So I remember being in the hospital room, in the little bathroom, looking in the mirror, crying, and thinking, this is just so sad. And I was waiting. They were coming to take me into the surgery prep room. And I was crying and I was praying, just saying, "Lord, where are you? Where are you? This is just such a tragic thing. This is unexpected. I didn't see this coming." And all of a sudden, I felt physically the Lord's warm presence. It was a really cold little bathroom, and I felt the Lord's presence, and I felt a peace that I could not explain come over me. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror and going, "Oh, all my life I've heard about this peace that passes understanding." And I'd never experienced it before, but in that little cold Hungarian hospital bathroom, I felt the peace of the Lord. And it didn't take away the sadness, it didn't take away the death of our baby, but I knew that God was there with me, and I knew that He was holding me. And I knew that He was going to make it okay. And so I had the procedure. My husband got there. We grieved together. And a few weeks later, I was praying, and I said, I was saying, "Lord, what do you want me to learn from this? What are you doing in this?" And I felt very clearly like God said to me in my heart, "I'm teaching you not to fear." And it was so unexpected. I was like, "I'm sorry, what?" That I don't know what I thought He'd say, but it wasn't that. And He said, "I'm teaching you not to fear." And so I started thinking about that, and I started thinking, what does that mean? What have I been fearing? And through the process of grieving this baby and thinking about my experience with the Lord in it, I started to understand that somewhere along the line, I had developed a very wrong view of God and of life, that I had believed if I did everything right, that God would protect me from hard things happening. And that hadn't happened. And I started to look around and realize, the Bible doesn't say that if we trust God that bad things won't happen. We live in a world where really bad things happen, and they happen to Christians and non-Christians alike, people who believe Jesus or not. And it really became clear to me that what God was saying, what He was showing me, was that He doesn't stop bad things from happening, but He promises to be with us in those bad things, and He promises to redeem those bad things. I started to see as we went along the redemption in what God did, how He turned that hard, sorrowful thing for good. And the way that He did that was really interesting. We started to share with people after we had lost our baby, and all of a sudden we realized it was like we had been given membership in a club that we didn't want to be in, that nobody wants to be in, but that a ton of people are in. And it's people who have lost pregnancies or are struggling with infertility. And people started to open up and share and say, me too, me too. You know, we've been struggling for 7 years. We've lost 12 pregnancy. All this hurt and this pain was opened up to us because of our own situation and our own story. And we were able to pray with people and stand with people and rejoice with people and grieve with people in a really unique way. And so I'm so thankful for that moment, for the way that God really changed my understanding from if I do it all right, nothing bad will happen, to bad things will still happen, but if you believe in Jesus, Jesus is always going to be there with you, and he will turn it for good. And that brings me such deep peace and has allowed me to not fear whatever comes, and hard things will come. We're in the midst of some hard things right now, if I'm honest. We lost 2 family members 2 days before Thanksgiving, and we're dealing with the aftermath of that. But I know that that God is here, that he is with us, that he is comforting us, that he doesn't leave us, that he is good, and that he turns all things to good.
Such a powerful story. I'm wondering, do you have a Bible verse that you've really held on to, or that's really encouraged you, kind of in your, I guess, anchoring verse?
Oh, that's such a good question. Yes, so I don't have a ton of verses memorized, but from the time I was young, like probably 12, this has been my favorite verse. It's Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, and it's trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all of your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. And I love that verse because no matter what stage of life, it's applicable, and it has been such an encouragement to me, whatever is going on, to remember, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Don't lean on the things that you can understand. Just keep looking to Jesus, and he'll direct what happens.
Thank you, Rachel, so much for sharing your encouraging story and message. Such a reminder to that complete trust in the Lord with our whole heart. He's got the plan for each one of us. Well, now at this time, it's a privilege to introduce to you our speaker for the evening, and her name is Johnna Hensley. Johnna is a speaker, author, and blogger. She and her husband live in Dallas, Texas. They've got 6 children, and they have a passion for foster care, adoption, and disability awareness. Let's hear now from Johnna Hensley.
Hello, friends. I am so excited to be with you and have the privilege to meet with you tonight, or wherever you are, whatever time it is, for the Anchor Gathering. I love the Anchor and what they're doing to unite people together, and I'm just so excited that you're here. My hope for you is that when you leave tonight, you feel encouraged, you're full of hope, and maybe you've met a new friend or two. My name is Johnna Hensley, and I am a speaker, a blogger, a mom, a wife, and really just a coordinator of chaos. Let's be honest. We have a family of 6 kids. And so my whole life is just, being a chauffeur, being a chef. I feed an army every day, multiple times a day. And so that is my main gig. Although I do have, like I said, the joy and the privilege to be here with you. And we're going to spend some time in the Word and just learning about God and his goodness. But before we do, I'm sure that you're thinking to yourself, how does this lady have 6 kids? She barely has any gray hair. And to you, I'd say, thanks, bestie. Let's just not underestimate the power of a set of highlights to hide all the gray hair in my dark brown-headed head here. And I like to wear my frownies on my forehead at nighttime to hide all of the wrinkles and crow's feet that life has awarded me over the last 40 years, right? Such is life. I shouldn't complain. The gray hairs and the wrinkles mean that I'm still alive and that I've been through some things. So let's kind of jump in. I want to share a little bit about some of those things that I've been through. I told you I've got 6 kids. I mean, there's a spoiler there, right? But we didn't always have 6 kids. So my husband and I got married young 20-somethings, and we were just rocking along in life. We had this perfect American dream in our minds. And we waited a couple of years before we decided to start a family, and got pregnant right away. we were just so excited and headed into a 20-week ultrasound with our first child, only to find out that our son, in fact, wasn't just going to be a healthy, typical child. He actually had a neural tube defect. They were able to diagnose in utero. And so these two young, naive, 20-something newlyweds we found ourselves in this room of just heaviness. This doctor had walked away and left us here, and we were just devastated, heartbroken, and grieving. The healthy child that we had pictured in our minds and envisioned, that was over. We lost that child that day, and our life began to morph into something else. And so we found ourselves in this heartache, yet we were also full of hope, because we were going to be parents. We were going to be first-time parents, and we were going to have a little boy, we'd found out. And it was exciting, and we were hopeful, but we were also heartbroken. And that's the thing, isn't it? That heartache and hope can coexist. We can feel two things at one time. We can feel the pain and the grief and the loss, but we can also feel the hope and the joy and excitement. And that's what it means to be human. That is this human experience, to feel all of these emotions, sometimes at one time. And so my husband and I began to move forward in this. Our hope at that time was more of a worldly hope that, our son's going to be born and he's going to have an immediate surgery. He's got this hole in his spine. They're going to have to repair it. And he's going to go into a NICU, and hopefully it'll just be a few weeks, and hopefully we'll get a best case scenario. And it was those kinds of hopes that we were having. And over time, God used our circumstance, our son, our life to sort of morph our hope from this short-term idea of hope into one of restoration and the hope of heaven. And when ultimate healing will come for our son and for his body and for all the things that ail him this side of heaven, these are just a vapor of time. And restoration is coming in heaven. Going through that experience, going through that heartache, led us to an eternal hope, and it changed everything about our lives. It changed how we view situations and circumstances, and it just changed our perspective. And so the Bible's very upfront and lets us know that, storms are going to come. Trials are going to come. Heartache is just a part of life. It is part of this human experience, like I said, and we're going to have difficulties. We're going to have trials and tribulations on earth. That's what it means to live in a broken world that has been affected by sin. But, like I said, restoration is coming. There are no children's hospitals in heaven. There are no cancer centers in heaven. There's no surprise diagnoses in heaven because of what Christ has done for us. And so that is where I have chosen to place my hope and to believe God and what he says and what he promises to his children. We birth our son. He joins us in 2007. We had all these wonderful ideas of what things would be like. We'd had this best case scenario. He's going to be in the hospital for 3 weeks. And it turns out the best laid plans. He was actually in the hospital for 210 days, which is 7 full months. And it was during that time, 7 full months of just trying to survive, he and I, him to stay alive and me to just make it to the next day and to hang on to any piece of hope, right? It's one thing to look back now. That was 16 years ago. And so I made it to the other side. But in the midst of it, it wasn't this easy, and it didn't just come naturally. But this is what God walked us through. The heartache leading to hope. When you walk through something like that, you come to realize that you no longer really fit into the world maybe this temporal world, all of a sudden, like my desires, my hopes, my perspective was completely different. I was valuing life, all life. I understood how frail it was, that it could be gone at any moment. And it was a gift, truthfully, to spend those 7 months walking through that and having my perspective changed, my just everything about me completely different. The way that I operate, the way that I live, the way that I make choices, where I place my hope, right? And so the thing is, like, you might not have had a disabled child. Maybe you have. And if you have, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But maybe it's something else. Maybe, you know, you've had an aging parent that you have to care for, a financial ruin, a business that went under, a house fire, whatever it may be. And maybe you've not really had anything yet. But not to be a downer, but something's coming. Because it's guaranteed and promised to us that storms are inevitable. And that is why we need to build ourselves on the rock. We need to anchor ourselves in the rock, build upon the rock in the calm before the storm comes. Storms are promised in life. That's what it means to be human. We get to experience life, and part of that means having some storms. One of my favorite passages from scripture comes out of Matthew 7. And Jesus is he's teaching the Sermon on the Mount to all these new followers who are just getting to know him. And he tells them, everyone who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain fell and the floods came and the winds blew and it beat on that house, but it didn't fall because it had been founded on the rock. And then you have this other group of people, because everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain fell and the floods came and the winds blew and it beat on that house and it fell, and great was the fall of it because it had been founded on the sand. The storms are coming, whether you're built on the rock or whether you're built on the sand. The rain's going to fall and the floods are going to come and the winds are going to blow. What's your house going to do? Are you going to be built on the rock? Or are you going to be built on sand? That rock that we get to build on is Jesus. It's the Word of God. We have the privilege, the invitation to build our house on the rock. You know, it's important, like I said, to get your house in order before a storm comes. And that might look like doing things like this, showing up to the Anchor Gathering, finding other believers to surround yourself with, finding sisters in Christ who could pray for one another and lift one another up. Maybe it's getting into the Word. Maybe it's learning about the rock. Maybe it's trusting that, yeah, I can build my house on the Word and I can trust Jesus and I can get my house in order. And then, he's trustworthy, right? So whatever that looks like for you, and we're all in different places and different parts of our journey, but it is important because storms are inevitable. Now, once you get good and anchored, good and solid on the rock, I would encourage you to say yes to adventures that might come your way once you are solid and sturdy and firm and founded on the rock. I told you guys that I have 6 kids, and I've only mentioned one so far, so we got 5 more to go. There's lots and lots more to this story. I'm going to give you the Cliff's Notes version tonight, although I wrote the full-fledged, tell-all in my book called Reckless Yes, which is like a Christian memoir about our family. But the Cliff's Notes is this. So Hayden became stable and was doing pretty well. He was 3 years old. My husband and I went on to have another son who was healthy and typical, whatever that means in this day and age. And then a few years later, we had another son, another healthy, normal son. That was great, perfect, whatever. Praise the Lord. And so we were rocking along with our 3 boys. We had home health nursing in place, helping us with all of Hayden's life and our existence. And we were solid on the rock. We'd been digging into scripture and just getting closer and closer with the Lord as the years had gone by. And God called us into a new adventure. and it didn't make sense to the rest of the world. It might have looked a little reckless or crazy. But, God's like that. He doesn't live, or he doesn't operate by the world's standards. And so we were called into fostering, into foster care. And our family became a licensed foster family. We started to provide short-term foster care to respite cases. And then that sort of morphed into having a full-time foster placement. And in 2019, we had our first full-time foster placement that only 6 months later became our first adoption. We adopted our daughter, and she became a member of our family, our fourth child. This just was our leaning in, our adventure, saying yes to a narrow path that God had called us to when it didn't totally make sense to the world around us. And here we were, now we're a family of 6, getting adjusted to that. And only 6 months later, after that adoption closed, after we walked out of that courtroom, 6 months to the day, we get a phone call. And we get word that our daughter, whom we had just adopted, who's 3 years old at the time, had just become a big sister. And we were being offered this placement of her sibling, right? And it was twins, actually. And they were 6 days old in a NICU. And we were being offered this chance to say yes to this reckless adventure of bringing in 2 more kiddos, our 5th and 6th children, into our home, keeping this sibling set together in the midst of a pandemic. And I'll bet you can guess that we said a reckless yes and took in those sweet, sweet babies who we adopted in 2021, thus closing our home. God no longer was asking us to foster. That season of our life had been concluded. The door had been shut for that. And we knew that. And also the state told us that we had too many kids, because after that it becomes a group home. And so confirmation after confirmation, right? And so then sort of my yes became this, telling my story and encouraging others and writing that book and all of those things. And so there's always a yes that we could say. There's always something that God is calling us to. And so that's where I want to kind of land the plane here tonight. I want to make sure, though, before we do this, that we all understand that I'm not saying these yeses, and I'm not asking you to say yeses because we're trying to earn something. We're not earning that restoration and that hope. We're not earning God's love and approval. Those are free. That hope, that restoration, his love, his salvation, those are free to us. We just have to ask. And those are gimmies, okay? And so it's from that place of salvation, though, and your love for him and being founded on that rock that we say yes to things. We say yes to things that are kingdom work, right? Eternal things of value. And so I just want to make sure that we're all clear about that I'm not asking, hey, how could you earn some salvation? No, that is free. It's free. And so if you are safe and secure in that salvation and you're ready to, from that place of overflow of love and getting to be on mission with God, then I want to challenge you. There is a calling on all of us who are followers of Christ, right? If we're followers of Jesus, we have a calling. We have something he's asking us to do. It's not foster care and adoption for everybody, so don't worry. It's not, could you come and help me take care of my disabled child? It's none of those things, right? Not for everybody anyway. Although if that is what your yes might be, let me know. I'd love to help you out. But your yes that God's asking you to do, the thing he's asking you to believe in faith and to step out on the water with him, could be going to a Bible study. It could be getting a Bible reading plan and reading through his word. It might be reaching out to a neighbor or a coworker who is new in town or doesn't have a good community, and you're being challenged to be that community, to step out. It could be that your yes you're needing to say is yes, Jesus, I accept your free gift of salvation. That might be it. It might be that you've had that nudge, that calling in your heart, and you know it's there, and you've been like, I'll get to it, I'll get to it, I'll get to it. Now's the time. You know, I learned life is fragile. We do not have all the time in the world here in this temporal space, and tomorrow's not promised to anybody. And so that's why we need to heed the voice of God, hear where he's directing us, go all in, say yes, believe him, trust him, take that next step, whatever that might look like for each of us. There's a Bible verse out of Matthew 6 that says, do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust can destroy and thieves can't break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And so that's the challenge, right? My heart, my hope is in heaven because heaven is my home. This place, this earth is not my home. This is a temporal passing through place that is just a blip on the radar of eternity. And so I know that restoration's coming, Jesus is coming, hope is coming, and home is coming. But in the meantime, I have an assignment here on this earth, and so do you. And so now, as we wind things down, I want you to just really reflect and maybe talk with your group and kind of think about, what is it that I'm being called to? What's my yes? What is it that God wants to do in my life and to use me for the sake of the kingdom? And if you find yourself in a place of heartache and hope right now, maybe tonight, that's where you are. You came to this place tonight, to this meeting, and you're in the midst of heartache, but you feel that hope, right? You see that light shining, yeah? There's a verse in 2 Corinthians 4 that tells us this: for this light momentary affliction is preparing for us an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison, as we look not to the things that are seen, but to the things that are unseen. For the things that are seen are transient, but the things that are unseen are eternal. This world is transient, it's temporal, it's not going to last forever. The unseen things, that hope, that restoration that's in heaven, it's eternal, it's forever. You will just lock your eyes onto Jesus, to eternity, onto hope, the restoration that he offers to all of us, and that you might really come to know and appreciate what it is to have the gift to be invited in, to be a co-laborer with Christ, to do kingdom work. And I would just encourage you to leave here today rooted on the rock, built on the rock, anchored in hope, and that from that place you might go out and do reckless things for the kingdom. Love you guys.
Thank you, Johnna, for sharing that inspirational message. Your story is just incredible. And what a reminder to really what the anchor is all about, being grounded on Jesus, our rock and anchor. Thank you again. Well, Johnna has given us some discussion questions. You're going to find those on your screen. It's a time that you can go a little deeper with your watch party group or ponder these questions on your own. Our hope and prayer is that you will be encouraged. Well, in conclusion, we just want to say thank you again so much for tuning in. We are so thankful for each one of you. And I thought in closing, I'd like to leave you with a really great verse that I hope you can hold on to. It's in Deuteronomy 31:8. It says this: the Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. So we just want to wish you a wonderful month. And until next time, stay anchored and we'll see you soon.